Hey guys, this is Max speaking from a Christmas decorated living room. And today is all about two particular medium format rangefinders. What's so great about medium format rangefinders is that they combine the quality that medium format film brings about with a compact size that makes them well suited for street photography and for taking portraits. The problem is that, at least if we look at the market and the most popular medium format cameras like the Mamiya 6, the Mamiya 7 and the Plauble Machina 6.7, these cameras are really expensive, usually starting at 1,000 euros, and if you find one in a great condition they can go up to 2,000 euros. So today I want to introduce you to some of the lesser known medium format rangefinders. And these are, in that particular case, the Fuji GS645 and the Fuji GS645S. Jules recently purchased these two cameras, and we decided to take a little tour with them in Wasserburg am Inn, which is around 1 hour east from Munich, and just give these cameras a try. Basically filming each other, taking turns using the camera and collecting our findings. So let's take a look at some of the images and our little tour through Wasserburg, and I will run you through our findings and our thoughts about these cameras. As a location for our little photo walk, Jules and I selected Wasserburg am Inn because it both features nature but also a very nice, lovely old town that almost has a medieval charm to it. And we started out parking our car kind of a little bit further away from the city center, and then walked along the river towards the old town. And there Jules started out taking some images first, mostly nature shots, using the Fuji GS645S camera. That is the one that features a 60mm focal length, which is, if you think about it on a 35mm camera, a typical analog camera, this would be the 35mm focal length. So really well suited for street shots and also for this kind of landscape or nature photography. The only disadvantage that I see about this camera really is that the lens has a minimum focus distance of only 1 meter. And if you compare that to other 35mm lenses, that is quite a bit, because there are cases where you can really focus up until a minimum distance of 30 centimeters, for example. So much closer than 1 meter. And that is kind of unfortunate because you cannot get as close as you would want to go sometimes. The lens has a maximum aperture of 4, which is really decent and looks great. It's a really sharp lens, already wide open, and the maximum shutter speed is 1/500th of a second. In terms of the design of these Fuji GS cameras, you have to say that you can really see that they were released in the early 80s. So that is the only visual disadvantage that I see, because the cameras really feel great, the overall build quality is also great, but they look kind of plasticky. And that is interesting. If you first see them, you're kind of, okay, this doesn't look like a really serious or even professional camera to me. But once you hold them and you get a feel for its build quality, you quickly understand, okay, these cameras really were made for professionals back then. And also, when you press the shutter and you hear the shutter sound and all that, you really get a feeling for the kind of quality that's in there. And looking at the final results on the images that just overall turned out great, you can really see, okay, this is a professional tool, and it's amazing that these can be had for 320 euros or a bit more nowadays. After Jules had finished his first roll, we took a little break, drinking a cup of coffee, changing film, and also then changing rolls. By the way, we were shooting Kodak Tri-X throughout this entire tour, not only because we both really like this film, but also because it's well suited for this kind of street photography or landscape shots as we wanted to do them there. Then it was my turn, taking a couple of shots with the other camera actually, the Fuji GS645 that features a 75mm lens, which is, if you think about it as an equivalent for 35mm cameras, it would be a 50mm focal length, so well suited for not only street photography but also for taking regular portraits. So this is also the kind of focal length that I would go for when doing street shots on my own. I'm more of a 50mm focal length guy, to be honest. So this felt really comfortable immediately, and I really enjoyed using the camera. What really takes some getting used to is that you have all your controls on the lens itself. So you only have your film advance and of course the shutter, where you're kind of used to having it, but you set your aperture, your shutter speed, your distance, and even the ISO on the lens itself. And only with the ISO, of course, it's a little bit tricky because they don't want you to change it accidentally. But the rest really has its own kind of haptic feel to it, and it just takes some time until you're used to which ring belongs to which setting. When you look through the viewfinder, you press down the shutter, you half press the shutter, so to speak, you already get the indication from the light meter of what it thinks, whether your exposure would be right or not. You have very simple light meter on the right side of the frame, indicating you with a plus, a little round dot or zero, so to speak, and then a minus, whether your exposure is correct or not. Very simple mechanism, and as is common for rangefinders like that, you have a little rangefinder patch in the very middle to focus, and that holds true for both cameras, so they worked very similar there. A difference that I noticed between the two cameras is the shutter sound. So with the wider version, the S version that Jules used first and that I used later, you have a really loud, kind of strong clunk. And with the other one, with the regular version with the 75mm focal length, it's a little bit more subtle and arguably better suited for street photography and portraits, but it doesn't really make that big of a difference. It was just interesting to note that the shutter mechanism apparently is a little bit different in those two cameras. The most important feature, of course, about this camera in comparison to the other one is that it's a foldable camera, so that you can actually bring it to a very compact size and have it hang around your neck all day long, and then you just unfold it once you need it and it's ready to go. I really like that. What both cameras share is that you automatically shoot in portrait format orientation. So you actually have to turn the camera by 90 degrees to shoot landscape or the regular format. And that of course makes the cameras well suited for taking portraits. So I just took a couple of images that I'm showing you here right now in the city center. Nothing too inspired, to be honest, but I still like how the results turned out, and I'm really surprised by the sharpness of these lenses, and again by the overall professional quality of these cameras that can be had for 300 euros or a bit more, which is really kind of I always have to hold back when I see one on eBay and always remind myself that I can go ask Jules to lend me one and take it out for a tour. Another thing that we tried and that was very interesting when Jules used this particular camera is a little set of close-up lens with a close-up lens and close-up finder that Jules had bought on eBay and had imported from Japan. This is a really rare set, both the close-up lens and the viewfinder together, and it is also very hard to use. We had quite some fun using it, trying to take some close-ups of some snow and stones in the snow and things like that. And you can see some of the results here. It was really hard to focus these images. Most of the time we really closed down the aperture, and still you have a really small depth of field here. And Jules even took a portrait of me using this close-up lens, and you can see the result here. To wrap things up, it was my turn using the 60mm version. And I have to say, if I would be a 35mm shooter and would dream about a medium format rangefinder, this would be the perfect one to go for. It is amazing using that for street photography, how quick it is, the overall handling, how it feels in your hand. You really have a solid camera there. As I said, despite its design and its kind of look of being a little bit plasticky, it really feels nice. You even have this little protective thing in front of the lens here. So you even feel it might be okay to bump into something occasionally. It's really robust, and it feels like, okay, you can use it on the streets kind of everywhere, and not just in a quiet old town somewhere in Bavaria. By the way, what I also want to mention is that Jules took care of developing our films from that particular day. And we decided prior to the shoot that we would shoot our Kodak Tri-X at 2 different ISO settings. And one would be ISO 250 and the other one ISO 320. And while Jules developed all of the films in Spur Acurol N, we did a regular development of the ISO 250 films, basically for 15 minutes with a dilution of 1:50. But a semi-stand development for the ISO 320 film rolls, developing them for 120 minutes with a dilution of 1:200 and agitating the container once every 40 minutes. So this results in a special plasticity, as you can see in some of the images, and also greater border sharpness. And while that is great for bringing out some details and contrast areas, for instance, it's not so great or less suitable for larger monotone areas like a sky. So the sky might look a little bit dull here on some occasions. So my summary is that the Fuji GS645 series is really worth taking a look if you're looking for a medium format rangefinder and you're not ready to spend €1,000 or more on the most popular ones. So I hope you enjoyed this video of Jules and me taking a photo walk with the 2 Fuji rangefinders. If you liked this video, please remember to like it and maybe even share it with your friends. If you want to see more videos like that, please subscribe to our channel. We intend to do a lot more gear reviews in the future as well. Yeah, so thanks for watching. I hope to see you soon. Bye.